I'm not 100% a commie, by the way. Like I don't 100% lean into communism, but I do agree with some of the things of both communism and socialism. I'm kind of like in the middle between the two. I don't really know. I'm kind of like in the middle. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, no worries. As far as everybody, and I don't peg anybody to a belief at any point, so yeah, no worries there. As far as everybody getting paid the same, again, it sounds nice, except for let's say maybe the brain surgeon who did up to 20 years of doing studies and stuff like that, and dedicate his whole life to becoming to make as much as somebody who just like me who talks on the phone all.
Well, so
Um,
I'll let you finish. Let me know when you're finished.
yeah, that was it. That was it.
Okay, so my thing about that is that when we create a monetary incentive for people to do work, they tend to only do that work for the monetary incentive. And this is what we've seen a lot within the medical field. I like how you brought up like brain surgery and everything, because this is what we see in the medical field a lot, right? So people oftentimes go to become a doctor not because they're actually passionate to like help people, oftentimes because they know that they're gonna make a lot of money pretty quickly by being, or not necessarily quickly because they got to go through all the like training, what have you, but they become a doctor not because they actually want to serve the community and actually want to help people. They do it because they want a lot of money. They want to be able to drive a Lamborghini. They want to be able to have like a big house and a big mansion. And I don't agree with that. I don't like that idea because that's how
Well,
you
kind
get
of.
shitty doctors. That's how you get a lot that's how you get a lot
Well,
of
that's it.
that's
Well,
how you get a lot of
actually, I
shitty
think the
doctors.
opposite because the fact is, I'm not even a big capitalist. I am for a mixed economy. I'm actually for more of like distributionism. That's what I more abide by. But I think that's actually the opposite because when you get people wanting to make money, which are usually the most intellectually gifted people in society, when these people are
Not
drawn
necessarily,
behind
but
making
okay.
money, well, a lot of the times these people who have the mental capabilities to become doctors, if they may not necessarily be drawn to it because they have a massive passion about it, but they're drawn to it because they can make money. So in a lot of these cases, the most smart people in society, the people that are best suited to be doctors, they end up becoming doctors and they end up being the best doctors possible because of the fact that they're drawn
That's
to it through monetary incentive. And a
that's
lot of people,
no, not at all actually. So the thing is, um this idea that because so would you say that you believe in something like a meritocracy and like that
yeah,
people, so you do believe in meritocracy? Okay.
yeah,
Now I know what I'm dealing with here. Okay. So oftentimes the people that are driven to like, not just because you make a lot of money does not necessarily mean you're smart. For God's sake, we have Donald Trump. Okay, we have Trump. We have a lot of Elon Musk. Even like he makes a lot of money, but his inventions for the most part are garbage. Like a lot of the things that he did.
Elon, no, but I gotta stop you there real quick because there are different metrics for intelligence, and I know you might not think they're all completely adequate. But for example, IQ, the people that succeed the most in society, they generally have higher IQs compared to people who are in lower ends of society and work more
Do
hands-on
you think
jobs. Like
do
people
you
that
think an IQ is something that is innate within people? Do you think that's something that's just innate within people?
yeah, yeah,
Actually,
there's a genetic component to
no.
it.
So IQ can actually be raised. You can raise your IQ just by being
Yeah, I know.
just by
No, but there's
being
no,
like
there's a
learning
to a
basically.
degree, to a degree,
To
to a
to
degree.
to
Oh yeah, yeah,
to a degree you
exactly.
can,
That's the exact point. You
but
can put me in no, yeah, the country. Guess what? I'm gonna flunk out.
so here's the
My
thing.
memory. Yeah, exactly.
Let me
No,
go.
yeah,
Let
no,
me.
no tell. This is the thing. Real quick, let me just explain the thing because that's a commonly cited phenomenon that people say, well, it can be raised. I forget the name of the effect, but I've done a decent amount of research on this. And even when they took people who had lower IQs and they put them into higher intelligence or higher education environments, their IQ was raised, but it was raised to a certain point and then it would plateau, right? So once it plateaued, that's a signifier to the point that people's IQ have a maximum and they generally do not go past that maximum.
So
And think about
do you not? Would you also? So here's the thing. Do you not? Do you understand that in many cases, brains and like if you let's say what you're saying is like 100% correct, right? Do you think that a person who is smart, right, and who is a hard worker is naturally going to rise to the apex of society?
they're more likely to because again, if you use different educational or you look at different intelligence tests to test someone's intelligence, the people in the higher ends of society generally have higher IQs compared to the people in lower ends of society. well, So again, yeah,
And
sure, you can
that's
take that
mainly
person
because
and their intelligence would rise slightly, but it's not going to rise to the point that the people that are running society have IQs.
I want to back up a little bit because
Yeah, go ahead.
I stepped back for a minute and I didn't get to the point I wanted to get at, which is I disagree with the premise that was first made that people only go to the thing they go to for money because
Yeah, I was
say
gonna
that a
go back
doctor,
to that too. Um,
right?
go
Let's
ahead.
say comes a brain surgeon, all right? Like he only does it for money, but that's not necessarily true because there's so many fields. You could go Wall Street and make a lot of money. You could be a lawyer and make a lot of money. You could go into a lot of things, but people who generally have a passion for the justice system and the law, and they know they can make a lot of money there. People who become doctors have a passion for medical study.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say was that like even if you make it to where like a brain surgeon still gets paid the same as like I don't know a freaking bus driver or something, right? Not saying that I don't value bus drivers or anything or brain surgeons, but like even if you were to do that, there would still be people who would want to become who want to study to become brain surgeons because that's their passion. People aren't necessarily motivated to do things for the monetary incentive. Like I'm not motivated to do activism for the monetary incentive. I'm motivated to do activism because I'm passionate with activism. And that's how I would be regardless of if activism was something I could make money with or not make any money with. That's just who I am as a person. And so I'm driven to do that. Like
We're both right now because you're right. Some people.
yeah, I'm just talking to Chad. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Chad. But yeah.
No, dude. No, dude. I believe I believe that as well. No, dude. I believe that as well. That it's not completely monetary, but the monetary incentive is what drives people. And it's not the only factor, right? Because again, a lot of people who are very smart and they could go down different avenues. They do end up going down to doctor avenue. They end up going law because they're passionate in that sort of field, right? But again, though, the monetary incentive to go into these kind of high service fields, the monetary incentive is what drives a lot of these people to go into these fields, right? Because, for example, me.
And I don't want those people in these fields. I don't want people who are driven by the monetary incentive. I want people who truly want to do it because it's what they want to do.
Well, yeah, sure, but the fact is, many low intelligent people that are not the most qualified for these jobs, they may be very passionate to become a doctor, but they don't have the intellectual means to do so, right?
Well,
people that do have
no,
the means,
they oftentimes this is due. They might not have the intellectual means. This goes to so many. Goes back to so many like other systemic things. Like for starters, a lot of it is access to knowledge and education. That's the biggest problem, and that's the biggest reason why we have so many inequalities here in America is because of the fact that like literally your success can be determined by your freaking zip code. Not only can it be determined by your zip code, but like whether or not you get a job can be determined by like or like the means that you might need to further yourself into a career or what have you could be determined by things such as not even just a zip code but also a credit score. From just your zip code alone, we can determine the amount of opportunities that you will have around you, that you will have available to you, and as a result, we can determine what echelon of society that person born in a specific zip code will end up in, based off of the amount of opportunities that are around that person.
I am for making it more equal for opportunity. I'm there right there with you, but that doesn't make my point any less important, right? Because even if we were to make society completely equal, or to make access to education more equal, all these different things are more accessible. The point still stands is that the monetary incentive helps a lot of people who are very intelligently gifted. They're very smart. The monetary incentive is what drives them to get into these sort of fields than to go into a field like art. For example, if you're a very smart person, and
I mean,
more into art,
I
right?
guess.
You're not going to be driven to go to be a doctor. You're going to be driven to become an artist, right?
Right.
You would be more proficient at being a doctor.
Wait, so did you just refute your own point there? Because you just said you said before that monetary incentive. You can't really have both. Yes, there's a monetary incentive, but people would just be driven to do these things solely based off of their passion for it. And I would rather have that than have people in these fields that are solely driven by the monetary value. Just because we take away the ability to get rich or the ability to live this life of exuberant wealth and luxury does not mean that we're all of a sudden going to see a decline in doctors. We're going to see a decline in shitty doctors, I believe. But I believe by getting rid of the monetary incentive, if we get rid of the monetary, this is what I believe at least, if we get rid of the monetary incentive, we will see a rise of actually good doctors because we'll see people that actually want, like my doctor, who I'm fortunate enough to have, who actually wants to help both me and my fiance through whatever problems that we actually want to that we actually had. Like for instance, this is anecdotal, but I'm gonna give it for a hot second. My fiance, I got her to switch from her problematic doctor, who really was just in it to make a quick buck. I got her to switch from that person, who was a woman, by the way, and she preferred to see a woman. Not trying to say anything bad about women doctors, what have you, but I got her to switch from that doctor to my doctor, who's a man, simply because when she walked into my doctor's office and she talked to him, she genuinely felt as though he was not just there to make a quick buck, but that he was actually there to help her and help her figure out her things like her anxiety and what have you. She actually felt like he wanted to help her. And then he wasn't. Meanwhile, her other doctor was in it just to make money, just slap another medication on her and send her out the door.
No, I agree with you. There is a factor of passion which you want to exist there too, and this is kind of the whole idea of competition, because you can do exactly what you did, right? If there's a doctor which is not passionate but he is very proficient, you can go to a doctor that's you can go to a doctor that's passionate and proficient rather than just going to a doctor that is efficient without the passion, right? So that's sort of the idea as well. But let me give you this situation, which I think kind of paints the idea of what I'm talking about a little better. So think about sports, right? Think about if we remove the incentive, the monetary incentive, that if you go to the NBA, if you go to the NFL, you're rich, right? A lot of these people that come from poor communities, they want to go to the NFL, they want to go to the NBA because they're rich, right? There's not even necessarily a passion there. There is a passion there. But I think a lot of people that are in college, a lot of these different types of people, and there are many NBA athletes and different sports that even say they're not even that passionate about the sport. They're there because they're good at it, right? And the fact is, yeah, sure, if we remove that incentive, that monetary incentive to become a professional athlete, the people that would fill those jobs would definitely be much more passionate, but the quality of the product would deteriorate, right? Because there would be less people that are very proficient at their sports that are not passionate about their sports. They would leave the sport to do something that they're more passionate about, but at the same time,
Yes, I would rather them do that.
about the sport that they're not very good at. Well, yeah, but that's the whole point, though, because you would admit, though, in that situation, the quality of the product would be less, right? Because if you're no longer having the 7 feet tall athletic phenoms there because they're not passionate about it, you're no longer seeing people. Sure, the 5'10" white guy that's really passionate about basketball may be very passionate, and it'll be a cool product to see because he's passionate. But the quality of the overall product, the quality of the games, the skill product would be deteriorated by a lot, right? Wouldn't you agree?
So wait, say the last part again. Sorry.
Yeah. So, sorry. So essentially, if you were to remove the monetary incentive, you'd lose a lot of these athletic phenoms, and the people that would enter the sports, so sure, they would be maybe much more passionate about the sport, but they be much less athletically gifted, and therefore the quality of the product
Why?
would deteriorate as a cost.
So was getting rid of money just gets rid of talent? That makes no sense. That's a correlation is causation argument, and that makes no sense to me. That makes absolutely no sense.
A lot of the time it does, though, because there are many people in these fields, and
If anything, I would make the argument that because of the monetary incentive, that leads to you getting more shitty players because of the monetary incentive.
No, not at all.
Because people are only becoming football players or sports players or what have you because they know they can get rich off of it.
Yeah, exactly. And because many people think about the poor communities, right? The poor communities, many people want to follow in these sports. They want to become professional athletes because there's the hope of becoming rich, right? So therefore, because there's the monetary
that, and because of the fact that, like, also, especially in communities of color, there's the representation that they get from seeing things like the NBA and what have you.
If you have a monetary incentive, you're inherently going to have more people want to engage in the sport or engage in the practice, right? Because,
right,
for example,
but that doesn't mean that they're going to be good.
Wait, let me finish. If you have a poor community and there's no monetary incentive to become a football player, basketball player, you're going to see less of these poor people want to engage in these sports, right? However, if there is a monetary incentive, you're going to have much more.
I would just make it in my society. In my society, there wouldn't be any poor people. In my society, like, because we're talking, and the reason why I bring up my society is because I brought up the lack of, like, monetary incentive and what have you, and I don't believe that, like, people should do a job simply because of monetary incentive. In my society, we wouldn't even have poor people anyway. So.
Yeah, but the point still stands, though, because even if we take out the poor aspect, if you have a group of people that want to become rich, let's talk about it in modern context, because that's what we're arguing, whether or not the meritocratic system or the whatever equality system is better, right? So if you're talking about a group of people, let's say you have 100 people, right? And 100 people, and they want to, there's just 100 people, and there's a monetary incentive to become a professional basketball player, right? if there's a monetary incentive to become a basketball player, you're going to have probably 80% of these people who live in a poor community. They're going to want to become a basketball player because there's the hope of becoming rich and getting out of the poor conditions they're living in, right?
Or they could
However,
also
if you
just
remove
like
monetary
basketball,
incentive-
or if anything, maybe you'll
Oh, yeah,
at
sure.
that
No,
point
sure.
you'll have people from all different kinds of communities going to
You gotta
be.
let me finish here.
I mean, you
No,
finished a lot of points, but okay.
Well, no, because hear me out. 80% of the people, let's say 80 out of the 100, want to engage in basketball because they want to be a prospect in basketball because they want to get rich because basketball, right? And then if you remove that monetary incentive, which is likely which would happen, is only about 40% of those people would probably want to get into basketball because they're passionate about it. So when you remove about half of the potential people that would want to engage in basketball, you're also removing about half the chance that people that engage in basketball are going to be proficient at their sport, right? Because if you
I
remove the
disagree.
sample size,
I
if you
100%
lessen-
disagree with that.
No, because if you lessen the sample size, then there's going to be a less likelihood that you're going to get proficient people in the sport or in whatever, in a practice or whatever, right? Because again, if you have 100 people want to go into basketball, and then you remove the monetary incentive, it's down to 50 people. So you're more likely to get proficient and very skillful people going into basketball if there's 100 people rather than 50.
Okay, that's great. So, a bunch of people are asking me to have some other people on. So I thank you for coming on. Thank you so much.
All right. No, I respect you. You're not. A lot of people lose their minds when I talk to them. So, and then you kick me too. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. You have a great one.